ICICI Bank and Infosys lead the losers. Defence stocks rally after the government approved the purchase of defence equipment worth 1.45 lakh crore rupees. Mascon Dock, Paris Defence and HAL close higher. After Europe and Japan, it's now China's turn to cut rates. Bloomberg reports that China may cut interest rates by 80 basis points on mortgages worth $5.3 trillion in 2 steps. The first cut may happen in the next few weeks, while the second one is expected at the beginning of next year. Stocks of oil marketing companies gain after crude prices stumbled to a 9-month low, below $75 per barrel. Prices fell due to Libya agreeing to resume production. SpiceJet is planning to raise 3,000 crore rupees via a QIP. Sources say CMD Ajay Singh might dilute 10% stake in the company. It's an NDTV profit exclusive. As its market share dips, McDonald's India decides to go healthy. The fast food chain has launched a new millet-based burger bun in West and South India. Ragi bajra, kowar, proso, podo are the key ingredients. Wrestlers Bajrang Punia and Vinesh Fogart joined the Congress party to contest in the upcoming Haryana elections. Fogart will fight from the Julna seat, while Punia will defend Congress in the Badli constituency. Good evening and welcome. You are watching Profit 360 on NDTV Profit, and I'm Nupur Talwar Suri. The markets were in the red today, all day today, in fact. Now, they mirrored the global markets, which ended lower earlier in the day. And Neeraj Shah is joining us with a look at all that action that took place in the Lal Street today.
Well, an interesting day of market. You have to say that while the indices closed lower, it's a day of resilience, because if you look at the intraday chart of the Nifty, you will see that we started off about 0.7, 0.8% lower, which itself was outperforming the rest of the Asian pack. But look at this. We closed in at the highest point of the day for the Nifty 50. And on the same breath, let's look at the small cap index with the index and the chart. And you will see that the small caps really did well for themselves. So we closed at the highest point for the Nifty. For the small cap index, well, I mean, interesting close, an interesting strength throughout the trading day in the green. Okay, now IT suffered. Let's get the heat map up on the screen. IT suffered, and therefore you had upstream oil and IT being the principal culprits. Wipro down 3%. Coal India had some individual issues around coal price corrections as well, but ONGC, and then at the broader end of the spectrum, Oil India too corrected. So oil upstream certainly had pressures for itself. Some auto names came under pressure, but largely IT and upstream oil. On the flip side, you had strength in crude price beneficiaries. So Asian Paints, Grasim did very well. Some FMCG names came to the fore. Cement saw some buying. Ultratech is not the only one, by the way. And there was strength in pharmaceuticals. In fact, if you can get the Nifty 500 stocks now, you will see the strength in pharma. Look at those gainers there. Piramal Pharma, Jubilant, Biocon. This whole bucket did well. The talk is that maybe the Biosecure Act gets introduced in the US next week, and that will help some of the Indian exporters, particularly the CDMO players, which is why a clutch of these stocks did really well. There's strength in CCL products, strength in Mascon Dock, some strength in PNB Housing and Prestige as well. What didn't do well, and of course the paint companies, right? So Berger, Indigo, etc., in addition to Asian Paints did well. What didn't do well? GIC, the block deal, not great. Oil India, oil upstream, like I said, didn't do all that well. There was weakness in Federal Bank because of the Morgan Stanley downgrade as well. Net, defense did okay. Some of the oil upstream did poorly, but downstream didn't do as well as anticipated. But a day of resilience. Let's see what's tomorrow is in store.
All right, thank you very much, Neeraj, for joining us on that. Now, moving on, defence stocks, of course, cheered the market today. The government's proposal to purchase defence equipment worth 1.42 lakh crore rupees as a part of the Make in India program gave these stocks a boost. Anushi is here to talk us more over this.
The defense sector in general is back in focus now. This is after the defense ministry has given a green light to about 10 capital acquisition projects which add up to about 1.45 lakh crore. So just more details on this. As we see, 1.45 lakh crore, and these proposals that we have seen are across various sectors, and various stocks in result of these are in focus. So first is the procurement of future ready combat vehicles. So for these, stocks which remain in focus consist of Bharat Forge, even there is Bharat Forge, L&T, and even another stocks. BEML is another stock which should remain in focus for this. Other than that, even procurement of air defense and fire control radars, we have stocks like BEL in focus in this scenario, and along with this, even L&T is one other major player that is there. Bharat Electronics and Larsen Toubro over here. But if you move on to the forward repair team tracked over here, then this is designed and equipped by Armored Nigam Limited. So that is on the watch out for this. Now, again, the focus shifts back to the shipbuilding companies and Hindustan Aeronautics. They were in focus yesterday and remained so focused in this one as well. There have been 3 proposals which have been approved for these to enhance the Indian Coast Guard capabilities over here. So, if you are looking at Dornier 228 aircraft, so HAL, Hindustan Aeronautics, is the main manufacturer in this scenario. But if you look at some other key developments, there is next generation fast petrol vessels, and there is next generation offshore petrol vessels also, which bring shipbuilding companies like Cochin Shipyard, Masgao Dock, and Garden Reach in focus again.
All right, thank you very much for that comprehensive update. Let's now take a look at the global headlines. In fact, China is considering cutting interest rates on as much as $5.3 trillion of mortgages in 2 steps. This is according to a Bloomberg report. Now, this move is aimed at lowering borrowing costs for millions of families while also mitigating the profit crunch on its banking system. Now, financial regulators have proposed reducing rates on outstanding mortgages across the nation. The rate cuts of about 80 basis points will take place in 2 parts. The first one may come about in the next few weeks, while the second cut would take effect at the beginning of next year. Now, crude prices have dipped over 4 percentage points globally, trading at a 9-month low. Now, the fall in prices is due to 2 rival factions in Libya reaching an agreement to begin production again, and weak demand and poor manufacturing data from the US and China too has taken their toll. One of the main beneficiaries of this fall in prices are oil companies, and shares of paint companies also saw some gains on this. Now, crude oil is a key input component for paint manufacturing, and a drop in this raw material will lower costs, aiding margins going forward. Well, MK's Neerav Sheth believes that the oil fundamentals are worsening sharply, and this time it could be structural in nature.
So I think finally the price of any commodity is a function of demand and supply, right? So I don't think that we are seeing anything new as far as the oil demand is concerned, right? So if you look at, let's say, OECD as a basket, then even pre-pandemic, the consumption growth was declining. So the fact that your oil intensity as a percentage of GDP consumption tends to decline as you become richer is a very well-known fact. What is obviously the new key on the block is we have seen a significant decline in the oil consumption by China. Part of that could be inventory, running down the inventory and stuff like that. But we do know for sure that if I take a 3-5 year perspective, then there is big unwinding in China excesses, you want to call that way.
Now, the U.S. markets ended in a deep rout as U.S. manufacturing activity came in weaker than expected. Now, this sparked recession fears. We spoke to Peter Maguire, the CEO of XM Australia, on how should investors position themselves in a volatile market. And he says that investors must keep an eye on structural weakness ahead of the rate cut.
First off, you've got NFP coming out Friday. How's that going to look? Then you've got the JOLTS report, you've got Thursday as far as tomorrow, that'll be the non-manufacturing. So all of that moving forward, PMIs. Then we've got to see how weak if there is structural weakness building on last month as far as NFP, that's really going to concern Fed Chair Powell, because it's 2 weeks today is the 18th, and that will be decision time for the Fed with policy. Is it going to err on the side of 50, or are you going to be stuck at 25 basis points? The jury's out. I think it's a 50-50 throw of the dice at the moment. And then naturally moving up to 2 months tomorrow, and you've got the elections.
Now, on to an exclusive from the aviation space. SpiceJet is planning to raise 3,000 crore rupees through a QIP. Aditya Rout joins us with more on this. Now, Aditya, what are you picking up, and how much of a stake is the CMD, Ajay Singh, planning to offload?
Yeah, so exactly, we are gathering the information from our sources that SpiceJet QIP roadshows are going to held, and these roadshows will be held in Hong Kong, Mumbai, and also Singapore will be there in as one of the destinations for this roadshow. And from these roadshows, SpiceJet is going to garner interest among the investors for this particular QIP. And one more important point that is coming out from our sources is that CMD Ajay Singh is likely to dilute 10% of his stake in the company, and SpiceJet is looking to raise around 3,000 crores from this particular QIP. And also one more important and interesting point that is coming out from the sources is that ICICI Securities, JM Financial and DAM Capitals are going to be the merchant bankers for this particular issue. So now we need to look forward that how this QIP turns up and how much interest is the budget carrier is going to garner from the investors, because right now we need to factor in that this particular airline is going through a lot of financial crisis. Recently in the news, it was there that the airline has not been able to honor the salaries of their employees, and also there were some disruptions in the flight operations as well. So this particular QIP is going to be a key for this airline.
All right, Aditya, thank you very much for joining us to bring us those details. Now, staying with developments from the aviation space, Air India is planning to open a maintenance repair and overall base in Bengaluru. And this is with an investment of 1,400 crore rupees. And Haripriya is joining us to tell us more about this. Hi, Haripriya. Haripriya, what does this mean, both in terms of employment generation and what is actually planned?
That's right. Air India is coming up with a maintenance, repair and overall facility with an investment of 1,400 crores. And it says that once the facility is completed, it is expected to create employment of about 1,200 people. And the MRO will also have about 12 hangars initially to accommodate narrow body and wide body aircrafts. And this will be fully operational by 2026. It's being built on a 35-acre land near the Kempegowda International Airport after the company had signed an MOU with the Karnataka government previously. Now this augurs well with Air India's plans to make Bangalore one of its prime hubs amongst others. And for this inauguration, CEO Campbell Wilson was also here, and he said that about 87% of narrow-body aircrafts will be upgraded by June 2025, and the retrofit program for the wide-body aircrafts will start next year. He did not speak much about the Air India Vistara merger, which is in focus right now, but he mentioned that the company is currently consolidating the organization structure and putting support systems together and aligning the process and practices of both Vistara and Air India.
All right, Haripriya, thank you very much for joining us with those details. Now, moving on, GIC-RE is also in focus, and this is because the government will be offloading nearly 7% stake via an offer for sale. Pallavi, who tracks this, is joining us. Pallavi, tell us more of what you're learning.
The offer for sale in GIC opened today for non-retail investors. Retail investors and employees can bid on Thursday. Now, the government is expected to offload about 11.9 crore shares. That's at 395 rupees, which means that the government is broadly raising about 4,700 crore rupees from this stake sale. Now, we know that the government's track record with disinvestments has been fairly shaky. In its previous term, in fact, the government was unable to meet its divestment target for the most part, and the miss was by a large margin, which also meant that we saw the government scaling down on its targets. In fact, at some point, like if you look at the latest budget documents, you will no longer find disinvestments listed separately, which means that it's not possible to ascertain how much the government plans to raise anymore purely through disinvestments. There has been an apparent rethink on the PSU policy for disinvestments, and in case of GIC, we are going to be tracking closely how this stake sale evolves and what it could possibly mean for more disinvestments by the government going forward.
All right, Pallavi, thank you very much for that. Now, it is the opening day of the PowerGen and Indian Utility Week event that's being held in New Delhi, and Rishabh Bhatnagar is at the event and joins us now. Hi, Rishabh. Give us a broad outline of what happened today and any big news points that you are getting your hands on.
Right, we're at the PowerGen Bharat Electricity event in Delhi, the 2024 edition of this event. Now, around me, we're at the exhibition hall. There's about 200 plus exhibitors displaying the latest innovations in renewable energy as well as all sorts of new energy forms. Apart from this exhibition, the highlight of today was, of course, the Union Minister for New and Renewable Energy, Prahlad Joshi, coming up. And he also spoke about how India requires about 125 gigawatts of additional renewable energy capacity by 2030. He also urged a lot of foreign players to actually come in and invest in India's energy sector. There was also talk on how demand was supposed to sort of flatline, but that has not happened in India. Rather, demand is continuously peaking up. We had this input coming from the Central Electricity Authority chairperson as well. Apart from that, NDTV reporter Vikas Srivastava and I, we also spoke to senior executives at the Hydrogen Association of India. We also spoke to listed firm Acme and GE Vernova to understand the sort of green hydrogen demand that there is today in the country and what can be done to actually bring green hydrogen costs down to about $2 to $3 per kg, as well as to understand how gas turbines can actually be a good intermediary in sort of the adoption of green hydrogen and get the infra built up first and then look at demand.
Rishabh, thank you for that very comprehensive view about what went on. But stay with us. We're going to come back to you in a bit. Now, in a move that is aimed at making electricity more affordable, Prahlad Joshi, the Minister for New and Renewable Energy, has said that tenders for offshore wind development projects for Gujarat are in the advanced stages. He also said that the next stage tenders will be invited from Tamil Nadu.
मेरा पूरा विश्वास है जैसे और देशों में भी हुआ है शुरुआत में 12-13 रुपए पर यूनिट था वो तो अभी धीरे धीरे 7 रुपए तक पहुंच गए हैं और बाकी देशों में ऐसे ही जैसे स्केल अप होता है ये हो जाएगा इसलिए हम अभी माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी के निर्देश के अनुसार हम 2 हिस्सों में बांट के तमिलनाडु जहां पोटेंशियल ज़्यादा है तमिलनाडु और गुजरात में हमने शुरू किया.
Now, during the event, Rishabh also spoke to Dr. R.K. Malhotra. He's the president of the Hydrogen Association of India. They spoke about how the government is working to make green hydrogen more cost-effective.
Green hydrogen mission, which was announced by the Government of India, Honorable Prime Minister had announced last year, and that has been progressing well. The government has been monitoring it also and supporting it in various forms. In terms of supporting the manufacturing of electrolyzers through PLI schemes and also giving some incentives for green hydrogen production. Of course, since this is a new thing which is happening, the cost of green hydrogen at this point of time is high. But we expect that as we go along, the cost will come down. Of course, the hydrogen which is produced from natural gas by our refineries and fertilizer units is about $1.50 per kg, and green hydrogen is about $3 to $4 a kg. So this gap has to be reduced in due course of time, which will happen with the capacities which will be built up. More people will come in, more technologies will come in. Government is also supporting the R&D in various sectors, and all this will reduce the cost.
Now, speaking about meeting power demands for increasing number of customers, Anil Sardana of Adani Energy said that transitioning to green hydrogen would not only keep the environment clean but also save costs for consumers.
It will be surprising for people to know that today we are reaching almost 40% green electrons within the bulk power that we source, which is the highest that any DISCOM has in India. And when I add to that the contracts that we have placed going forward with the due approval of regulators, we will be 70% green electrons by 2027. Wow. Now, that has two advantages. One, it is low cost. And the second advantage is that it's transition by virtue of the advantage that we are passing to the consumers.
Now, according to media reports, the Indian government is said to have been considering the possibility of setting up a global sovereign wealth fund. We, in fact, have Shubhana Sheikh joining in with more details on this. Hi, Shubhana. Give us more details of what the thought process essentially behind this is, and also share with us more details in terms of which countries actually have these wealth funds.
Hi. So yes, the government is said to have been in preliminary discussions with, the RBI, SEBI and IFSCA GIFT City for setting up of a sovereign wealth fund. They've also said to have been in talks with 30 PSUs to basically see the possibility or success of this sovereign wealth fund. So now let's break it down and see, what exactly is a sovereign wealth fund. It's basically an investment fund which includes bonds, stocks, real estate and precious metals. And this would be a state-owned fund which would also invest in alternative investments such as private equity fund. Now, a sovereign wealth fund is basically funded by foreign exchange reserves. Now, in that case, it's the RBI. Why is there a need for a sovereign wealth fund? Is basically it will help India increase its global footprint. It could also open doors for opportunities to invest in infrastructure, including housing, railway projects globally. While India does give grants and aids to other countries, a sovereign wealth fund can actually help increase its ability to invest in infrastructure or help in other projects abroad, such as Africa. It's said to have been a long-term program which could make India a global player. It can also attract other countries to invest in this fund. Now, there have been global examples of sovereign wealth funds. Like there are countries like dozens of countries like China, Norway, the UK. There are several Gulf countries such as Kuwait and UAE that have their own sovereign wealth funds that invest in assets across the world. The US also has a sovereign. The US doesn't have a sovereign wealth fund, but there are several states such as Texas that have similar funds. Now, what will help? How will this help India? So basically, it will help India in securing critical minerals with agencies like ONGC Videsh. It will also help, in India meeting its oil and gas energy needs in the medium to long term. Now, the way forward would be, it's considered as it's a right step directionally, but it's yet to be known as to what kind of investors we will see. So yes, that's on the sovereign wealth fund.
Very much for joining us and giving us those details. Now, sources have told informers that tea prices are likely to rise. Hindustan Unilever and Tata Consumer are likely to increase tea prices soon.
Now, sources to informers have said this, that, for HUL, Tata Consumer, they may hike their tea prices because of cost pressures. Even in Q1, we've seen that margins in the tea segment have seen some pressure, and they've seen pressure in terms of demand and volumes as well. Now, the regional tea retailing companies have already raised their prices. Now, HUL has brought 18% less tea during April to August via auctions as compared to the same period last year, is what informers has to say. And they're also seeing inflation in tea procurement costs. So HUL will continue to monitor pricing across the product portfolio, and they will continue to invest in branding in tea segment as well. So far, this is the information we have. But even in Q1, as I said, companies like HUL and Tata Consumer have seen pressure in terms of margins because of rising tea prices.
All right, thank you for that. Now, as McDonald's tries to rev up its shrinking market share, it has decided to turn towards healthier food options. The burger chain has now launched a millet-based bun in West and South region. Maitri Seth spoke to the MD of Westlife Foodward, Saurabh Kalra, that runs the franchises in the West and the South of India, about why he thinks this will be beneficial.
I think we were going through a cycle, and in the cycle, H1 I don't think has been going as per our expectation, and like you said, Q1 results were not the best. But when we look at the Vision 2027, I think we still feel very confident that we are in line in achieving our Vision 2027, and our belief is that H2 will be far better than H1, and you will see activity around menu, etc. Millet bun is just the start, so hopefully you will see the tide shifting in H2.
Right. And also there are concerns around food inflation, not just that, there are concerns around the operations of QSR at this point. So how are you planning to mitigate those, and especially when the same sales store growth is less, what are your plans around store expansion?
We've given a guidance that in Vision 2027 we need to be 570 to 630 stores. For that we need to do around 40 to 50 restaurants a year. I think last year we opened around 42 restaurants. I think we will be in line to open similar 40 to 50 restaurants even this year.
Now, the IMD has issued a severe rainfall alert for 4 regions in Telangana and Andhra Pradesh. Heavy downpour is expected in isolated areas of Bhupapalli, Asifabad and Mulugu. Now, these areas are likely to witness thunderstorms accompanied by strong winds and lightning. Meanwhile, the water level in the Godavari River has crossed the first warning level in Telangana. The river reached 43 feet at 1 this afternoon, prompting heightened alerts in the region. Well, wrestlers might become netas as the Congress inches closer to revealing its candidates for Haryana's upcoming assembly elections. Amid growing speculation, Rahul Gandhi met with star wrestlers Vinesh Fogart and Bajrang Punia, fueling rumours that they might be on the party's ticket. The Congress Central Election Committee has already finalised 34 candidates, with the full list expected shortly. Both Fogart and Punia had earlier accused the WFI chief Brijbhushan Singh Sharan of sexual exploitation. As AICC General Secretary Deepak Babaria stated, clarity on the inclusion is expected by Thursday. And moving ahead with some sport news, Indian para-athletes have scripted history in Paris by winning 21 medals, which includes 3 gold, 8 silver and 10 bronze medals. With this medal tally, the Indian contingent has surpassed the highest medal tally of 19 medals at the Tokyo edition 3 years ago. Today, in the shot put finals, 3 Indian athletes participated in the discipline. Out of the 3, Sachin Khilari had an incredible throw which secured the 8th silver for the country. In the paracycling event, Arshad Sheikh and Jyoti Gaderia finished last in the individual events. Indian shooters saw a dip after completion of 4 series of disciplines. Rudransh stood at the 18th position, while Nihal Singh was at the 23rd position. Paralympics events will end on the 8th of September, and still the Indian contingent has a few disciplines to get over with. Let us see how the tally looks at the end of the Summer Games. And on that note, that's all we have time for right now. Thank you for joining us.